This tourist thought his money gave him the right to do anything. First, he taunted the royal guard, then he crossed the line by throwing water in his face. The crowd fell silent, expecting the usual stoic response, but what the guard did next left everyone in shock. That day became a lesson the tourist would never forget. But let's go back to the beginning. London, the heart of tradition and royal elegance. A sunny day casts its golden light over Buckingham Palace, where crowds of tourists buzz like a hive of excited bees. Everyone is here for one reason: to see the motionless, majestic royal guards, whose discipline and composure have become symbols of British dignity. On duty is one such guard. He's not just a man in uniform. He's a living statue, embodying centuries-old traditions. A tall, well-built man in his early 30s, his chiseled features seem carved from marble. His gaze is fixed in the distance, impervious to the chaos surrounding him. His red and gold uniform fits him perfectly. The bearskin hat atop his head rises like a crown, and his polished black boots gleam so brightly they reflect the midday sun. But his day is far from peaceful. The crowd of tourists presses closer, a mix of awe and noise. Some snap photos with wide-eyed admiration, while others shout into their phones, "This is unbelievable! Look, he's not even moving!" Amid the noisy crowd, one figure stands out. A man in his 40s, the very picture of tourist arrogance. His demeanor exudes entitlement. Garish lime green shorts, a tacky t-shirt emblazoned with "I London," and oversized mirrored sunglasses that make him look more like a caricature of a 90s action star than a respectful traveler. In one hand, he clutches a plastic cup filled with a cheap cocktail, and in the other, a brand new smartphone poised to capture the ultimate content. This man, our antagonist, has decided that today's main attraction won't be Buckingham Palace or the guards. It'll be him. Nudging his companions with a smug grin, he lets out a loud, grating laugh before shouting, "Hey mate, give us a smile! You're here for us, aren't you?" His voice cuts through the square like the screech of a rooster at dawn. The guard, of course, remains silent. He doesn't flinch, doesn't blink. Not even a twitch of the eyebrow betrays his steely composure. His steadfastness is an unyielding wall against which the man's flood of idiocy crashes and dissipates. But the tourist doesn't get it. To him, the guard's silence is a challenge, a cryptic signal urging him to go further. With exaggerated gestures, he begins to wave his arms, desperate to command more attention. "Look at this guy. He probably thinks he's in a movie." The crowd's reaction is mixed. Some laugh, egging him on. Others remain silent, their expressions tinged with unease. Among them stands an elderly man, medals gleaming on his blazer. His face darkens, his fists clenching at his sides. At last, he shoots the tourist a withering glare and growls, "You should show some respect. They're not here for your circus." But the antagonist only snorts, brushing off the reprimand as if it were a trivial complaint from a cashier. "Oh, relax. It's just a joke," he retorts, taking a sip from his cup. Let's be honest. In that moment, we were all thinking the same thing. Who does this? Why act like such a... well, you know. After all, this is a royal guard, not just a man in uniform, but a symbol of traditions that feel increasingly rare in today's world. And so, the tension begins to build. It hangs in the air like a heavy mist, growing thicker with each passing second. The guard remains as still as a statue, but his fingers tighten ever so slightly. His gaze remains locked forward, but his expression is the epitome of iron resolve. The crowd buzzes with anticipation. The tourist continues his juvenile spectacle, while we, the onlookers, hold our breath. Will this day become yet another example of tradition succumbing to audacity? Or will the guard prove why he is the embodiment of royal dignity? Who can say? After all, this is only the beginning. The crowd thickens. People press closer, forming a tight ring around the guard, each vying for the perfect photo or video, as if capturing this moment guarantees viral fame. The antagonist, now basking in his self-appointed spotlight, is convinced he's the day's star and director of this impromptu spectacle. In front of the guard lies a white line, a final boundary between order and chaos. The tourist pretends not to notice it, but his restless movements betray his growing urge to cross it. Pacing back and forth, searching for the ideal angle, he grips his phone tightly. "All right, folks, watch and learn," he shouts, raising his phone and turning to the crowd. "This is gonna be the most epic selfie of your life." He stretches out his arm, framing the shot to make it look like he's holding the guard's iconic bearskin hat. Naturally, the joke seems brilliant to him. With a smug grin, like someone who thinks they've just reinvented comedy, the tourist laughs loudly. "Come on, mate. Give us a smile. I'm paying for this after all." His words spark outrage among those who understand the gravity of the moment. A woman standing nearby with a small child purses her lips tightly, whispering in dismay. "This is too much. Why can't people just respect another culture?" Her comment doesn't reach the tourist. He seems to exist in his own world, where everyone is his audience, cheering him on. The crowd begins to split into two factions. Some watch his antics with giddy excitement, like it's a reality show unfolding live. Others exchange glances of disapproval, whispering and nodding toward the guard. Such restraint. He's a true professional, not even a flicker of emotion. But the antagonist thrives on the attention, feeding off it like a moth to a flame. In his mind, a new genius idea begins to form. Determined to cement his status as the day's main event, he takes a step closer to the line. Now, the white boundary is mere inches from his feet. Turning back to his friends, who are starting to look noticeably less amused, he announces, "All right, let me show you a real show." The tourist raises the plastic cup in his hand, the one he's been carrying like a prop. Inside, a small amount of water sloshes lazily. He begins to toss the cup lightly in his palm, teasing the crowd and building the tension. "What do you think, buddy? How's this for a reaction?" he shouts, his voice dripping with mockery. And then, with a quick, deliberate motion, he throws the water straight into the guard's face. For a moment, the square seems to freeze in time. The crowd falls silent. The only sound is the faint whisper of the wind, as though all of London has paused to witness what will happen next. The guard remains impassive. His face is as unreadable as ever, not a single muscle twitching in response. But his eyes, they glint with a steely, icy sharpness that sends chills through the onlookers. Subtle though it is, his body language shifts. His hands tighten almost imperceptibly, his posture radiating controlled power, like a coiled spring ready to snap. The tourist, oblivious to the mounting tension, beams with satisfaction. His face shines with smug triumph, as though he's just won a game only he was playing. "Oh, come on, mate. You're supposed to entertain us. It's just a joke," he jeers, his grin stretching wider. But the crowd's mood has shifted. Whispered murmurs ripple through the onlookers, their expressions turning darker. The woman with the child covers her mouth in disbelief, her wide eyes locked on the scene. A man wearing a veteran's pin grips his cane tightly, his knuckles whitening with anger. "This is disgraceful," the veteran mutters, his voice low but resonating clearly in the thick silence. The air grows heavier, oppressive. Everyone knows that patience is a virtue, but even virtues have limits. The guard stands unmoving, an unyielding pillar of resolve, yet there's an electric tension in his stillness. It feels as if this statue is on the verge of coming to life. The crowd collectively holds its breath. No one moves, no one speaks. The weight of the moment presses down on them, as if all of London has leaned in, eagerly awaiting the next act in this unfolding drama. For now, the guard remains silent, the very image of restraint. But in the stillness, there's an unspoken promise. What comes next will be unforgettable. For a moment, time seems frozen. The guard remains motionless, but the tension in the air has grown so thick it feels almost tangible. The crowd holds its breath. Even those who had been laughing just moments ago now stand in silent anticipation. And then, it happens. The royal guard, famous for his unshakable stillness, takes a step forward. "Oh my God! He moved!" A voice from the crowd cries out, a mixture of shock and excitement. The murmurs start instantly, spreading like wildfire. Phones snap up, cameras recording as everyone realizes they're about to witness something extraordinary. The guard walks toward the tourist, his movements deliberate and smooth, every step radiating an unyielding strength. Towering and imposing in his gleaming uniform, he approaches the antagonist, who now looks smaller, his earlier bravado visibly crumbling. The tourist stumbles backward instinctively, but the crowd behind him doesn't part. The guard stops inches from him, looking down with an icy, unflinching stare. His face remains cold, as if carved from marble, but his eyes, those piercing steel blue eyes, seem to bore straight through the tourist's facade. The smirk vanishes from the man's face, replaced by a look of genuine unease. And then the guard speaks. "Your behavior dishonors not only yourself, but those around you," he says, his voice calm yet thunderous, each word delivered with the weight of centuries of tradition. His tone is neither angry nor condescending. It is measured, powerful, and unshakable, like the voice of history itself. Each syllable lands like a nail in the coffin of the tourist's fragile ego. The crowd erupts into applause. "Bravo!" someone shouts. "That's how you respond with dignity!" But the moment isn't over. From the crowd, a small boy emerges. He's no older than 6, dressed in a blue jacket and clutching a tiny Union Jack flag. His big, bright eyes shine with admiration as he looks up at the guard, his face filled with awe. "Are you okay, sir?" the boy asks in a soft, serious voice. The crowd falls silent again. All eyes shift to the child, and even the guard seems momentarily taken aback. Something in his expression shifts, ever so slightly. A faint shadow of a smile, so subtle it's almost imperceptible, crosses his lips. The guard bends down slightly and adjusts the boy's hat, ensuring it sits properly on his head. Then, with perfect precision, he performs a small, flawless bow to the child. The gesture sparks an explosion of emotion in the crowd. Applause erupts anew, louder and more enthusiastic than before. "What a man!" someone shouts. "Now that's true honor!" Meanwhile, the tourist finds himself at the center of a very different kind of attention. "Did you see that?" a young woman asks her friend, pointing to her phone screen. "I've already uploaded it to my stories." The footage of the incident spreads across social media in real time. Comments begin flooding in under the rapidly multiplying videos. "What a disgrace. People like this make you wonder where the world is headed." "Massive respect to the guard. He's a true symbol of resilience." "This tourist needs to be fined, or better yet, deported for his stupidity." The antagonist glances around, realizing dozens of cameras are still pointed directly at him. His confidence shatters completely. His face flushes bright red, and his hands begin to tremble. He stammers, I was just joking. It was just a joke." But the crowd isn't buying it. The jeers start quietly but grow louder. "A joke? That's just plain disrespect. Go home and learn some manners." The tourist, visibly shaken and desperate, tries to retreat, but the damage is done. His harmless prank has turned into a public humiliation, and now he's the one being judged by the crowd. As for the guard, he returns to his post, majestic as ever. With meticulous precision, he straightens his uniform, adjusts his stance, and resumes his position as if nothing had happened. Once again, he becomes the immovable statue of royal dignity. But everyone watching knows the truth. This man has just delivered a lesson in composure and honor to the entire world. The noise of the crowd doesn't die down for quite some time, but now it's no longer the chaotic buzz of a spectacle. Instead, it's a symphony of admiration and spirited discussions about what had just transpired. People walk away inspired, having witnessed not just a confrontation, but a powerful reminder of respect, tradition, and human decency. The guard, unshaken and unbroken, stands tall, a symbol of dignity in its truest form. The crowd continues to buzz with excitement and tension, though the focus has shifted. The royal guard's unflinching composure has already earned admiration, but now all eyes are on the defeated antagonist. The tourist flits nervously, his face blazing red with embarrassment, as though he's a traffic light stuck on red. The laughter and whispers around him feel like daggers, cutting through his last shreds of confidence. People's phones remain pointed at him, recording his every awkward move. Some chuckle, others shake their heads in disapproval, quietly exchanging remarks. Serves him right. How can someone be so disrespectful? Even his own friends, who had moments ago cheered him on, now retreat into the anonymity of the crowd. One of them mutters loudly enough for others to hear. "We don't know him." The moment of reckoning arrives when a palace security officer steps forward. Dressed in a sharp, dark uniform, his stern face radiates authority. He stops in front of the tourist, who now looks like a deer caught in headlights. "You need to leave the premises immediately," the officer says, his tone calm but firm, brooking no argument. The tourist tries to protest, his voice trembling. "But I didn't mean—" The officer doesn't engage. With a subtle nod, he signals the crowd to part, creating a pathway for the tourist's exit. Defeated, the man lowers his head and shuffles away, his bravado completely extinguished. As he passes through the crowd, someone shouts sarcastically, "Did you get the selfie you wanted?" The crowd bursts into laughter, and the tourist raises a hand to shield his face. But it's far too late for damage control. Every moment of his humiliation has already been immortalized on countless phones. Meanwhile, the guard calmly returns to his post. His movements are precise and deliberate as he straightens his uniform, adjusts his stance, and resumes his position. His expression is once again a mask of stoic indifference, as though the entire incident had been nothing more than a fleeting distraction. The crowd responds with thunderous applause, their admiration for the guard echoing through the square. "A true hero!" someone yells. "That's what dignity looks like," another voice chimes in. For the guard, it's just another day on duty. But for the crowd, this moment has become a story they'll never forget. A powerful display of grace under pressure and the enduring strength of tradition. By the next morning, the incident has taken over social media and headlines across the UK. The video of the tourist throwing water at the guard, followed by his subsequent humiliation, has gone viral, amassing millions of views. But instead of likes and admiration, the tourist finds himself buried under a tidal wave of criticism. What a disgrace! How can someone act like this abroad? He thought he was being funny, but all he did was embarrass himself. Respect to the guard, this is what honor and discipline look like. Lesson learned, don't mess with the Royal Guard unless you want to become a meme. News outlets run sensational headlines. Tourist's disrespect backfires, turning him into a laughingstock. Royal Guard proves tradition, triumphs over provocation. Eyewitnesses share their perspectives on TV interviews, praising the guard's professionalism and composure. Clips of the guard bowing to the young boy go viral as well, celebrated as a heartwarming reminder of humility and dignity. The tourist, however, becomes the subject of relentless mockery. Memes featuring his face flood the internet. One particularly popular image shows him mid-stumble with the caption, "When you tried to go viral but became a cautionary tale instead." Despite the media frenzy, the Royal Guard remains unmoved. He continues his duties with the same unwavering focus and discipline that define his role. The noise of the outside world, the memes, the headlines, the social media storm stays firmly outside the gates of Buckingham Palace. Ciao. For the guard, it was just another day upholding the traditions and honor of his post. But for everyone who witnessed the event, it was a lesson in respect. The incident reminded the world that some symbols, like the Royal Guard, stand for values far greater than individual antics. As for the tourist, his day ended in utter humiliation. Yet, in a way, he played an important role in the story, becoming an example of what happens when arrogance clashes with dignity. And for the crowd, this was more than a viral moment. It was a powerful reminder of why respect for culture and tradition is timeless. In a world increasingly driven by likes and shares, some things, honor, patience, and grace, remain beyond measure.